Well, good morning. Good morning. It is a beautiful morning. Hopefully, we don't have too much echo here. Got the sound down as best I could. Yeah, so it's a crazy morning. There's a lot going on. Um, Let me just make sure my sound is okay because I've got a weird echo going on. Nope, I seem to be okay. So it's interesting. I titled today Um, Trump is falling apart. Are you happy? Was kind of a joke. But it is true that for a long time, many people asked me, when is this nightmare going to end? When is this nightmare going to end? And in the meditation, my higher self said 5 months. And so that message was delivered July 17th. So that was 5 months ago, December 13th. Well, almost, it'll be 5 months. Still a couple more days. His polls are the lowest, I think, getting down between 31 and 36% on the economy and other pretty key issues that he ran on. It's looking bad. I just wanted to also introduce myself. If you haven't watched before, my name is Whimsy. I am whimsical. Yes, that is my real name. I was born a whimsy. I have many hats. There's the serious side of me where I do real research, and then there's the fun side of me where I have an alter ego where I play an oracle. But in the middle of all of this play, we say that truth can be found in the pretend. And that is where we encourage people to practice meditation and self-reflection. And I use a technique which is called heart-centered remote viewing, and it's developed from Vajrayana Buddhism, but other techniques can be found in other traditions. It's really kind of a universal tradition of going with inward in a place of empathy and trying to put ourselves in the shoes of another human being, even those we may have strife with, which is very difficult when you're a regular human being. And I have tried to the best of my ability to be Donald Trump, and I've tried to the best of my ability to have empathy for him and his friends, Elon Musk, who killed something like 500,000 children in Africa, slowly starving them to death because he didn't care, because he wanted money to build rockets. And so he took it from US aid so that he could build rockets. He took the other kids' lunch money. Like the brat from Pretoria that he is, he stole another kid's lunch money in order to pay for his rocket. So, yeah, those types of people. Those types of people, you want Nicholas Kristof has written extensively on data showing that 500,000 children died when US aid was cut. I know what the questions that are there that come in. Talk to Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times. Yes, the New York Times. Not everyone likes the New York Times. Yeah, so I find that, there's a part of me that doesn't enjoy watching the collapse of Donald Trump. There's a part of me that doesn't enjoy this at all. I'm not enjoying this. I don't like seeing him limping where Melania is literally having to use all of her physical strength, her, shoes go. I know what it's like to walk in heels in the grass. Your shoes get stuck and you're trying to hold up this 265-pound man who can barely walk. That's the latest film footage. So we have these polls coming out that Trump is a disaster. on economics and key issues he ran on. Immigration also, he's tanking in Miami. He's lost the Cuban vote. GOP knows it's in trouble. What are they going to do? They're going to conspire with the Democrats to get Trump removed and to have the world vilify him as much as possible. You combine, so they would theoretically, in such a scenario, help the Democrats to release um, the Epstein files because they know it will make Trump look bad and they will be able to get rid of him and put Vance in all the sooner. If they don't put Vance in as soon as possible, there's no way he would be able to necessarily win a primary. They can't guarantee he'll win a primary unless people can see him as the president. They have to see him as the president. And that means they're going to need at least 18 months or longer to have people get used to the idea of a Vance presidency if they have any hopes of taking the White House in 2028. And it looks like in 2026, there are a lot of Republicans leaving the Senate, Tillis and McCarthy. No, not McCarthy. Now I'm having my senior moment. So many are leaving. Former Speaker of the House, the Turtle. Yes, the Turtle's leaving. A lot of those old fogies, those old Republicans, it's all about the courts. Yes, he's going bye-bye. But also in the House of Representatives, Marjorie Taylor Greene, et cetera, a lot of people deflecting. And so they basically quit. And it's kind of like the collapse of MAGA. It's like, where the heck did everybody go? Well, our guy is sick as a dog and he can't run anymore. And so we have to go and save our careers because we don't want to be part of this disaster. The ICE, he's lost a ton of people in Miami because of the ICE raids and because of his war now on the Cuban population, which tended to vote Republican because the immigration policies worked for them. They were successful asylum seekers because they brought their wealth, their money. They were Cuban aristocrats. They were the whitest Cubans you could be, right, in that society until the fall, some would say the rise of communism. But so now now they're getting deported. They're dealing with ICE raids. And Malcolm X would say the chickens have come home to roost, right? I don't know if I'd be that harsh, but yeah, so we now have a new Miami mayor, and that's interesting. Mitch McConnell, thank you. Finally got it. Oh my goodness, that brain of mine. I just woke up. I'm just having my coffee. So that's part of my excuse. All right, we're going to do the Empath prayer. Hopefully my coffee is safe there on that ledge. I'm going to have to pull this camera back a little bit more, just like that. Yes, now my coffee won't spill. All right, we're going to go ahead. We'll do the Empath prayer. Let's go ahead and take a look at the questions. Okay, I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. This is going to be interesting. But yeah, so getting back to Trump's health issues and the fact that we had felt that he would be gone in 5 months. Can he come back from this? The polls are tanking. His health is tanking. The Epstein files are being released. Part of some cooperation between the left and the Democrats and the Republicans. But do we want Trump to leave, or do Democrats want to hold on to Trump as long as possible to sabotage the JD Vance presidency? So, what is really to the benefit of the Democrats? And I think most people have to think in terms of getting past their own political biases, whatever those political biases are, and move towards ultimately what is best for the United States. And I think, are we looking at with somebody like JD Vance, the feeling is we're going to get a polite fascist, a more functional fascist than we would with Trump. And so for that reason, we should stick with Trump, who's a complete disaster. But I don't agree. I think that what the nation needs right now is stability, and the Constitution is the law of the land. And even though many people feel that it was questionable whether or not Trump won the 2024 election, some people feel that there were things going on in Pennsylvania and North Carolina that look at possible theft in certain counties. Right? You only need to switch a couple counties by a few points. And so you could use computers to isolate those counties which could go red or blue, and then just give them a couple 0.2, 0.3 percentage points. It wouldn't take much in key areas in, say, North Carolina or Pennsylvania. So that is the accusation. But it is unrealistic, even if that's true, that anything would be done when the Republicans have control of the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. And so for that reason, there's no reason for them to give the Democrats what they want. Instead, they'll do what the Constitution says. They would be more likely to speak privately to the president and give him the honor of resigning and inform him that they have reached a consensus in the Senate. If he's physically collapsing in public, if he's using the podium to physically hold on because he cannot stand, if there's film footage of him where he's collapsing and can't walk, and there's a cover-up, an active cover-up in the White House that this man cannot walk, can he make it past the winter? I don't believe so. I don't believe he can serve. I don't believe he can fly more than 4 hours. I believe he has congestive heart failure. I think his diet and hard living when he was younger, hanging out in clubs, doing drugs, cocaine, prescription Adderall, etc. I think it could have advanced his medical problems, including frontotemporal dementia, which is different than Alzheimer's, though I believe his father had Alzheimer's. Frontotemporal affects the frontal lobes, so your executive abilities, your ability to be rational rather than impulsive. And the temporal, the left temporal, which is the Wernicke and Broca areas of the brain, which is speech. And because those areas seem to be the most vulnerable with Donald Trump in his behavior, that's why physicians are saying it's frontotemporal dementia. The left temporal lobe, Wernicke and Broca, the ability to recognize language, interpret it, and also to properly interpret words and form sentences. That whole process takes place in the left temporal lobe. But also the left temporal lobe lesions are associated with increased anger. So I have some medical background. I'm a naturopathic doctor, but my area of interest is neuroscience and cardiology, but specifically the relationship. I'm interested in gastro too, but neurology fascinates me, and particularly the relationship between the gut and the brain. And this was somebody who was eating a lot of trash. So, yeah, the latest film footage, he couldn't walk. There's a blizzard coming to DC. Can this guy come back in January? Are they going to? They could continue to lie and say that he's, at his summer White House and it was advised travel. They'll make up travel warning BS or something. But given how ill his health is, I would not advise him. If he's flying back to Florida, it would be advised that he not return. Most cardiologists would say extreme heat or extreme cold are not recommended when you have congestive heart failure. Yeah. So let's take a look at what is going on. I don't know, folks. I'm not too optimistic. Like I said, I did the meditation and he was out in 5 months according to spirit. So we're now there in this coming week. And usually when I hear a voice, it's my advice is to listen to it. It doesn't happen very often, but that is what the voice said. The voice said, we're looking at maybe, if he's lucky, he can get to 5 months, which was nearly 5 months ago. So what are we looking at here? We're looking at the base card. Base card is the bottom card. And the bottom card is the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man, which is the ability to hang something up. Interesting card, interesting history to this card. It corresponds to the Hebrew word lamed. The lamed, which I believe must be the 12th card in the Hebrew language. Yes. So that is the shape of the lamed. He is shaped like a lamed. Why? Lama is why in Hebrew. Why? So there's always a question with the lamed, asking why. But the ability to let things go or hanging something up, that is the president's cards. And his karma card, which is an additional card that I have begun to pull. Other readers sometimes will do this too. And that is the card that is under the base. There is a card under the base that is often hidden. People don't always go to it. If you're doing a Celtic cross, I would take the base card, but I would also take the hidden card, which is the secret karma or destiny. We have this person hanging things up, and we have this person fleeing like a thief. Could this happen quickly? I feel as Donald Trump, I have lost my power. I feel the people around me can smell blood in the water. I feel like having my wife, carry me. Can I get up those steps of that helicopter to get the hell out of here? I feel that no one is no one's going to protect me. I feel like the wolves are out. I feel vulnerable. I feel like I want to go to safety. The fact that these Epstein files are breaking tells me that the knives are out, that the wolves are out, and they're coming for Trump. It's a new day and a new dawn in DC starting in spring around April of 2026. So we're now seeing the collapse of this presidency, and we will probably see, even though many of you don't want to hear this, a JD Vance presidency sometime around April of 2026. But the process of removing this president is in motion. For all intents and purposes, it is over. He probably will go back to Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, and slowly phase out of the limelight, and a new day, a new dawn emerges in April of 2026, most likely a new president. There is grief and sorrow in the land. There is grief and sorrow in the land. So I don't know if Trump dies or if he simply resigns, and he resigns in such a terrible way with the ex. Look, there's a lot of grief that goes on. The farmers are suffering. People are suffering. People thought guy was going to make things better, and that didn't happen. So people are suffering, and so rightly so, they're upset. But this is not the presidency they thought it was going to be. They had forgotten how crazy this guy was. I think that's what happened. And so, and then he got crazier. His mental health problems began to show. So he lost his core base. He's now at only about less than 60% support with Republicans, which was unheard of for him. It used to be the Trump party. He's in a state of confusion. So I also feel like his mental health is falling apart, because the Seven of Cups, if any of you are learning to read the Tarot, it's a person who's in a state of confusion. And when the card was drawn, it was at a time when opium addiction and heroin had come out. I think in the 1920s, heroin, bare aspirin. So from the time of the Victorians up into the time of the Edwardian era, you see this heavy use of opium, and then after that it gets replaced by heroin. But it is inspired by this idea of being drenched in an opium cloud, like you're just smoking that opium pipe, high as a kite, and you can see all the clouds of the opium poppy, the poppies, right? Was part of popular culture. So you have this person who's just smoking the pipe and is completely whacked out, delusional. What should I pick? Should I pick the mystery man, the ghost, the snake, castles in the sky, jewels, the crown of power, or sex and seduction? So that is the person who's completely whacked out. Could be drugged out, whacked out. The mind is beginning to go with this individual. And what he's sitting in, stubbornness. So they may be having to talk to him, Mr. President, about your successor. I don't have a successor. So now the delusion is that this individual believes that there will be no successor. I am Caesar, right? I will live forever. I am a god. He begins to believe his own madness. He's not going to have a successor because he's not going anywhere. So I don't have to agree to JD Vance. I don't have to be like Queen Elizabeth on her deathbed, Queen Elizabeth I, saying with no strength, nodding, yes, I give the crown to James, my nephew James I, yes, of the Scottish, yes, she shall rule because I have no one, yes, so it shall be James I. An interesting man, bit of a country buffoon, believed too much in witches, right? Spent a lot of time in the stables, hanging out with the stable boys. Yes, he had quite an interesting history. But the point is that is the death scene of Elizabeth I, right? She has to give the nod and say, before you die, we want the world, we want to give you your last wishes. You have that kind of playing out here. Four of Cups absolutely will not do it. And coming out of the Romantic era. So this is somebody who came out of a period where they felt that they had it all, or they came out of a Romantic era. And we talked about the stages of grief when you find out you're going to die, that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has talked about. I always call her Catherine. I don't know why I do that. And what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said is she talks about denial And what the nation had and what I think Donald Trump had is this first phase of grief, which is denial, that the person simply cannot accept that they are sick. And that's kind of what we saw from his campaign, from his cabinet, this refusal to accept the fact that Donald Trump is truly ill. And then we go into the time of anger, right? So, anger and denial, where first it's denial, and then the person becomes angry and begins lashing back. And this harsh attacks against the media, it's really not appropriate behavior for anyone, certainly not the president of the United States, to act like that. And his just increasingly rash behavior has led people to suspect that this guy cannot rule. This guy cannot rule. And so I think he goes back to his garden. He goes back to rest in Mar-a-Lago in the near future. But overall, the feeling is that the truth is coming out. Sun is in the 7th house. So this is a time when the sun is coming out, and he has good days and bad days. You know, once he's rested, if he has 2-3 days of rest, which he's going to be having. Now he's going into a 9 of Pentacles, resting in the garden, sowing your oats. This is, or not sowing your oats, but a good harvest, enjoying your wealth, enjoying your rest, and enjoying your retirement, your nest egg. This guy's going to be able to be okay financially. But there's this sun over him, and the sun can burn you if the truth comes out and you don't like it. There it is, this fear or obstacle in the flim-flam man, this connery, the shenanigans, comes up as an issue with Trump. And the hopes and fears, the King of Cups, the great mediator, some guy coming in that's going to make everything right, some guy that's going to come in and make everything perfect. And the final outcome is a strong partnership will emerge. A strong partnership will emerge. So he's going to have to start developing more of a relationship with his vice president. He was in denial. Now he's entering into fear and bargaining, and he's going to have that serious conversation with his VP about necessary arrangements in the event that there's going to be a transition. How do you want your funeral? How do you want to be remembered? What are your wishes for the continuation of your administration? What you want to achieve, etc. Those conversations are happening and will be happening. That's my Lindsey Graham card, by the way. He's always the Trump whisperer, right? That always has to go between Trump and the Senate. His time in the White House has ended. Yeah. Well, yeah. 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 I don't know. I think it's difficult for the nation to see. Oof, he's frightened that they will take holds of him and take him to some kind of facility. His biggest fear is loss of control and crying for Melania, and then putting him in a stretcher and taking him to some type of medical facility for long care in the event that he is not right in his mind. They've been building a case against him with these MRIs, with all of this is evidence against him, should his cabinet choose to issue Article 25. They now have enough evidence to do so. His fear is that they will strike the articles and that they will put hold on him, put him in a gurney and take him away. That is his big 9 of Wands stands in his house of opposition. It's to be contained, cornered. His hopes and fears, Lindsey Graham. He's leaning on Lindsey Graham to get him out of this. Speak well of me, kindly about me to the Senate. There is fighting in the House. Expect to see fighting in the House as more and more GOP deflect and accept the reality that this presidency cannot continue. And so we will hear the words from Lindsey Graham that it is time. Mr. President, the duty has fallen on me to inform you that we have reached a consensus in the Senate. We give you the honor of resigning. But we're not quite there yet. We're headed there very, very quickly. 5 of Wands, expect fighting, hysteria, and the fear that Trump is now going into energetically will take hold and ripple across the GOP. And with that will come bargaining, a grief and acceptance. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure and like, share, subscribe. Excuse me. If you're trying to get in for a reading, you can find all that information below. Be kind to all so that all will be kind to you too. God bless. Peace out. We'll see you next time, everyone. Thank you so much.